Right now, you are sitting in your climate controlled office watching the global financial news. You see the headline about software engineers and copywriter getting laid off by thousands in Silicon Valley. You take a sip of your coffee and smile. You are a financial controller, a supply chain manager, or an HR executive. You think that because you do not write code for a living, your job is safe. You believe that your administrative and cognitive labor possesses a magical human element that an algorithm can never replicate. You're operating under a catastrophic mathematical illusion. You're staring at the very tip of an iceberg, entirely blind to the massive submerged architecture that is about to tear the hull out of your career. A coalition of researchers from MIT and Oak Ridge National Laboratory has just executed a raw, unsentimental scan of America's $9.4 trillion labor market. They call it Project Iceberg. They have developed a metric that proves traditional economic dashboards like GDP and unemployment are now functionally obsolete. These reports prove with absolute computational certainty that the actual technical exposure to AI is 5 times larger than the visible tech disruption we currently see on the news. Before I break down the exact terrifying mathematics of the Iceberg Index, explain why the white-collar worker in traditional non-tech states are actually the most vulnerable, and give you the precise architectural blueprint to survive the greatest labor market restructuring in human history, hit the subscribe button and press the notification bell. I post daily videos showing you exactly how to navigate the global labor market using cold, hard engineering logic. You do not want to miss these execution protocols. Today, we are going to completely dismantle the $1.2 trillion exposure. I'm going to show you exactly how a government supercomputer has already built a digital twin of your resume, backtested it against 13,000 artificial intelligence tools, and mathematically calculated your obsolescence. Grab a notebook. It is time to stop acting like a passive passenger on a sinking ship and start operating like an architect of the ocean. Welcome back, I'm Dr. H. To understand why my approach to the macroeconomic strategy and artificial intelligence is aggressively different from the comforting lies peddled by the legacy career coaches, you must understand my underlying architecture. I hold a PhD in Human Resources, a master's from prestigious Tata Institute of Social Sciences TISS in Mumbai, and a bachelor's in computer engineering. I do not look at the labor market as an emotional community. I look at it as a computational matrix. Operating on the ground here in Dubai since 2010, consulting for Apex corporate and sovereign wealth funds, I have watched brilliant executives miscalculate their operational risk because they were staring at the wrong data point. Traditional workforce metrics completely fail today because they measure the employment outcomes after the disruption has already occurred. When the unemployment rate spikes, the damage is already done. Project Iceberg addresses this fatal gap by measuring exactly where AI capability overlaps with human skills before the corporate adoption crystallizes. Let us systematically deconstruct the 5 phases of this global threat: the iceberg illusion, the digital twin matrix, the geographical blind spot, the metric collapse, and architecting your survival. Phase 1, the iceberg illusion, surface versus depth. We must first diagnose the exact scale of the threat by mapping the $1.2 trillion gap. If you listen to the mainstream media, you are led to believe that AI is only coming for the tech sector. Project Iceberg refers to this highly publicized phenomenon as a surface index. The surface index measures the visible AI adoption happening right now in the tech and computing. The data shows that this visible disruption accounts for only 2.2% of the labor market's wage value, which translates to roughly $211 billion. If you base your career trajectory on that 2.2%, you will feel safe. But you are failing the oldest trap in the maritime navigation. When a ship sails through an Arctic water, the ice visible above the surface is not what sinks the vessel. The fatal blow comes from the 90% of the mass hidden silent beneath the dark water. To expose this, the researchers introduced the Iceberg Index. This is a skills-centered metric that calculates the exact wage value of skills that AI system can already perform within every single occupation. The number generated by the Iceberg Index is terrifying. It sits at 11.7%, representing a staggering 1.2 trillion in wage value. This hidden mass is exactly 5 times larger than the visible tech adoption. Where is this 1.2 trillion hiding? It is embedded deeply within the white-collar, cognitive and administrative workflows that nobody is talking about. When a procurement manager reviews vendor contracts, when a financial compliance officer runs background checks, or when a hospital administrator processes patient claims, these are the capabilities that AI already possesses. The news headlines drastically overweigh the tech sector, completely ignoring the fact that AI demonstrates massive capability in administrative and financial tasks spread across the entire country. The machine is not coming for the factory floor. It is actively hunting in the air-conditioned back offices of corporate America. Phase 2, the digital twin matrix, simulating 151 million workers. You might be asking how MIT and the Oak Ridge National Laboratory actually calculated this overlap. They did not conduct a simple email survey. They built an algorithmic war room. They understand that you cannot predict the future of work by looking at static historical spreadsheets. To find the truth, they utilized large population models to simulate the entire human AI labor market. They constructed a digital universe containing 151 million workers across 3,000 countries, representing each individual as an autonomous agent. Every single digital worker in this simulation was assigned precise parameters, their specific occupation out of 923 possible roles, and the exact skills required for that role. The researchers pulled over 32,000 specific human skills from the ONET database. Then they catalog over 13,000 production AI tools, including Zapier, OpenTools, and MCP's implementation, using the exact same skill taxonomy. Understand the mathematical magnitude of this execution. They placed your 32,000 human capabilities on one side of the matrix and 13,000 AI tools on the other. They ran this simulation on the Frontier supercomputer at the Oak Ridge National Lab, utilizing MIT's Agent Torch framework. The rules were absolute. If an AI tool exists that a language model can use to perform a relevant task, that skill is mathematically considered automable. That skill is considered automatable. This means your job description has already been audited. Your daily workflow has already been backtested by a supercomputer against the current capability of artificial intelligence. The researchers have proven exactly how much of your daily output can be replicated by an API call before your CEO even realizes the software exists. Your resume has been algorithmically interrogated, and the results demand an immediate strategic pivot. Phase 3, the Geographic Blindspot, the myth of the Silicon Valley. When white-collar professionals feel the anxiety of AI displacement, they often use geography as a psychological shield. They tell themselves, I don't live in a hyper-competitive tech hub like San Francisco, New York, or Dubai. I live in a stable, traditional state. The AI wave will take a decade to reach my office. Project Iceberg absolutely obliterates the geographical blind spot. The data proves that the white-collar exposure is not isolated to coastal hubs. It is geographically distributed across all states. In fact, the raw data presents a brutal, counterintuitive reality. States like Delaware and South Dakota actually shows higher Iceberg Index values than California. How is this possible? Because Delaware is the epicenter of the financial back-office operations and corporate registration, while South Dakota houses massive administrative and credit card processing centers. These roles are 100% reliant on data processing, text synthesis, and logical routing. The exact cognitive domains where large language models are achieving absolute supremacy. But the most dangerous shockwave is hitting the traditional manufacturing states, a phenomenon that the report labels hidden surprise. Policymakers in states like Ohio and Michigan are obsessively focused on physical automation and robotics on the assembly line, remaining completely blind to the fact that they face double digital technical white-collar exposure. Look at the specific metric for Tennessee. If you look at the visible tech disruption in Tennessee, the surface index sits at a comfortable, negligible 1.3%. An average policymaker or worker would look at that number and go to sleep. But Tennessee's Iceberg Index, the true measure of AI skill overlap, is a staggering 11.6%. That is a 10x gap between what is visible and what is vulnerable. Tennessee is a massive hub for healthcare administration, supply chain logistics, and regional corporate headquarters. The robots are not taking over the assembly line. Autonomous AI agents are preparing to quietly take over the invoicing, the vendor communication, and the supply route optimization. Geography is no longer a protective barrier against algorithmic displacement. It is merely a set of coordinates on a digital execution map. Phase 4, the metric collapse and the structural concentration. If the threat is truly a 1.2 trillion sub-leviathan, why are our traditional economic warning systems completely silent? Because you are navigating a 2026 digital storm using a compass built in 1950. For decades, we have relied on GDP, per capita income, and unemployment rates to gauge the health of our careers. The Project Iceberg reports explicitly state that these metrics each explain less than 5% of the variation in the Iceberg Index value, when these traditional metrics might correlate with a tiny 2.2% surface index. They are essentially blind to the massive underlying exposure. Every single technological revolution requires an entirely new framework of measurement. During the industrial era, we measured output per hour to track physical productivity. During the internet era, we utilized the digital economy satellite accounts to measure the value of online service. Today, in the AI intelligence era, there is only one metric that matters: the Iceberg Index, which measures the exact overlap between AI capability and the human skills. To survive, you must also understand the structure of the exposure. The risk is not distributed. The researchers utilize the Hirschman Index, the HHI, to measure the concentration of this exposure. The data reveals two distinct patterns. States like Iowa and Ohio exhibit broadly distributed exposure. The AI capability overlaps with agriculture, logistics, and general administration, requiring complex multi-sector coordination before massive job displacement occur. However, states like Virginia show comparable total exposure, but it is channeled directly into just finance and technology. The high concentration enables targeted, rapid corporate action. If your career exists within a highly concentrated HHI zones, the disruption will not be the slow leak, it will be a tsunami. You will wake up on a Tuesday morning to find that your entire department core competency has been fully automated by a single enterprise software update. By the time the national unemployment rate registers a blip on the evening news, your specific professional niche will be mathematically extinct. Phase 5, architecting your survival, the sovereign pivot. Project Iceberg is not a prophecy of an inevitable doom. It is a high-fidelity architectural blueprint. Apex operators do not read this data and panic. They read this data and weaponize it. The report openly acknowledges a critical limitation. The index measures technical exposure, identifying exactly where AI can perform occupational tasks, but it does not predict exact displacement outcomes or adoption timelines. The actual impact on the workforce depends entirely on firm strategy, regulatory choices, and most importantly, worker adaptation. You must seize control of your adaptation by executing the sovereign pivot. 1. Abandon the automatable workflows. If 80% of your daily biological bandwidth is spent replying to standard emails, formatting Excel reports, executing data entry, or applying rigid compliance rules, you are living below the waterline of the iceberg. The researchers mapped 32,000 skills against 13,000 tools. You cannot outwork a tool that executes complex logic in 400 milliseconds. You must proactively audit your own job description, identify the administrative friction you produce, and automate it yourself using local LLMs or tools like Zapier before your chief financial officer decides to automate you. 2. Pivot to high friction. Zero data environment. Artificial intelligence thrives in an environment with clean, structured, historical data. An AI can instantly verify a financial compliance checklist, but an AI cannot sit in a room with a furious Tier 1 client and de-escalate their emotional panic to save a $10 million account. An AI can calculate the optimal maritime shipping routes, but an AI cannot physically negotiate a bribe with a corrupt port authority to get your cargo off the dock. You must aggressively migrate your skill set into zones of extreme human psychology, ethical judgment, and high-stakes physical friction. 3. Become the strategic opportunist. The report outlines that policymakers are using the Iceberg Index for strategic opportunity identification. The goal is not just to cut costs, but to figure out where AI adoptions can advance goals while strengthening the workforce. For example, automating healthcare administration specifically to free up nurses for actual high-value patient care. You must execute this exact strategy at the micro level within your own department. You walk into your vice president office and state, "I have utilized an AI agent to automate 60% of our departmental's administrative reporting backlog. I have reclaimed 20 hours of my week. I will deploy those 20 hours to conduct face-to-face, high-friction negotiations with our supply chain vendors to increase our operational margin by 5%. You have automated your own role, but you have also prevented your own termination. You have elevated your classification from a replaceable administrator to an irreplaceable revenue-generating orchestrator. Stop managing tasks that our supercomputer has already mapped and start orchestrating the machine to amplify your leverage." Look closely at the mechanics of the corporate environment around you. While the general public and the media are obsessing over 2.2% visible tech disruption, the true apex operators are monitoring the silent tectonic shift of a 1.2 trillion exposure. The Iceberg Index has proven mathematically that your university degree, your years of loyalty, and your geographic locations cannot protect you from an algorithm. The data from 151 million simulated workers or 32,000 skills is absolute. If you are performing the work of a machine, the machine will eventually replace you. If you choose to wait for traditional metrics like GDP or standard unemployment reports to warn you that your industry is under attack, you are committing the greatest financial mistakes of your life. You must transition from a reactive crisis management into aggressive strategic foresight. Your skills, accept your vulnerabilities, execute your pivot today. Process the data, execute the strategy, and I'll see you at the